Crosby to the Cowboys is the topic at hand today. We're going to unpack everything step by step and then hopefully answer some questions, get you guys out of here pretty quickly. It's going to be going to try to keep it under a 45-minute show. I know that's hard for me sometimes because I have a problem shutting up, but all the logistics, what it means for the Cowboys in theory, how that affects George Pickens, why the Raiders would consider it, and all the above, okay? Making sense of everything. These, by the way, are awesome. Let me pump this. And we'll get it going. The first thing, though, that I need everybody to do on your way in, just go ahead and hit the like button for me. That way, the only thing that you got to do the rest of the show is just literally sit back, relax, and hopefully enjoy yourself. Most of our viewership here unsubscribed. So that's another thing too, but just assuming that you guys are already hitting that button too. That's your only job today is to hit the like button for me so that this platform can continue to grow. L Boogie, what's up, Swain? I'm, by the way, Lando from the Lando Show.
All right.
And this is Sports Below the Surface if you're new here.
I am inevitable.
L Boogie works. Landon works, Lando works, whatever you guys see fit. But today, actually, I may refer to myself as just little man Land, because nobody cares about anything that I have to say until one of the big men says it. But that's all right. We won't be, thanks to you guys, right? Being here, doing your job, helping me continue to grow. We won't be a little man for long. And no, sir, Rocky's here from the Twitter side of things. So if you are on Twitter, you're seeing me, but also YouTube as well. You can catch me over there if that's better for you, whatever is your preferred destination. But I'll eventually have it to where it's streaming to 4 specific locations as well. But for right now, I don't want to overwhelm the download and upload speed, and it has a tendency to bog things down. I'm under a metal building right now. I don't have a hard wire to my internet. So those are all coming. Fear not, my friends. All right, Maxx Crosby. Let's go. One more swig and we'll roll. And while I do that, audio sound good? Y'all check me. Audio, video. Give me a couple horns in the chat for an A-OK. But I'll assume that all is well unless I see something else happen. First thing that I want to bring to light, this is what I said last night and why I'm referring to myself as the little man, just jokingly, humorously, just trying to just have fun with the moment, because it is what it is. Like you're a mockery of yourself until other people verify the things that you say, right? So this is the nature of the beast, man. It is what it is. Kelvin Hicks is here, loud and clear from Swain. All right, cool. And hopefully, I forget who his name was. Hopefully, he'll be joining us here. But he was kind of curious. We had a little bit of an interaction last night, and because I know that it's a widespread concern regarding, okay, you bring Maxx Crosby in, that's a hit to your salary cap situation. That means George Pickens is automatically gone. Not so fast. Not so fast on that. And that's what, the Joneses in recent history, especially with the Micah Parsons situation, that's what they like for their fans to believe. But new media, people like myself and the countless other really, really incredible creators on behalf of Cowboys Nation or otherwise, just the NFL in general, are here to dispute that, right? And my job specifically, the Sports Below the Surface truth for the true fan, right? To creatively convey the truth. And that creative, objective truth is that the salary cap hell, as it's commonly referred to, is largely a myth, okay? It does not really exist unless you want it to, as the owner, you being the owner, right? You can afford to pay both. And that's what some of the confusion is. And so that's kind of why I'm here and hopefully to clear some of those things up, right? I've worked like this in the past. There's a video on my channel from about a month ago And it was basically unpacking what the Eagles know and act upon differently than everybody else in the National Football League as of today, relative to voided years and the money that they have allocated as dead money as a result of their voided years for multiple contracts, as a result of just being willing to swipe the credit card. Or Jeffrey Lurie, for example, being willing to liquidate some of his business, some of his ownership, to have cash on hand to pay some of these top tier players in free agency or otherwise, right? And then their pockets are different than the salary cap reflection. Okay, it's not like Mulan, or is it Mulan or Pocahontas? Forget which one. My daughters are big Disney enthusiasts right now, and one of the songs came on the other day. It was, "When will my reflection show who I am inside?" What the Cowboys, or what most fans see when they look at the salary cap, it's not a synonymous, a symmetrical reflection, because of it's a loophole that teams like the Eagles and like a couple others, but teams like the Cowboys now have a chance to act upon. If they're truly serious about winning, the salary cap isn't a factor here. All right. So the first thing that I want to unpack is Pocahontas. There we go. Kelvin knows, he's about it. And we'll talk about Diggs too. Trust me, we'll get there. There was a lot of rightful questioning about whether the Cowboys would get a deal done, just in general, right? Because of their frugality, their lack of a willingness to swipe the credit card, right? Put money into voided years and defer it into the future, right? It is a cash on hand issue, but the cash on hand issue is a owner willingness. It has nothing to do with the salary cap, right? So make sure that y'all hear me when I say that.
Guys, listen. Okay, what?
Listen like Linda and understand that the salary cap has it is no hard restriction on your team building situation. It is simply and merely a accounting principle. It's the first thing you got to know. We got that part, okay? Then, so you get past that on whether they could actually do it. It was, would Jerry really do it because of his pride and his ego? Let me ask you this question, nation. Little man Lando here says, you tell me what you'd rather have. Micah Parsons or Maxx Crosby, Kenny Clark, and a first-round pick? Which is an easier sell to your fan base? Because the reality is, the truth of the matter is, if you can get Maxx Crosby for A1 and change, then that's your equation. That's the equation that Jerry Jones is evaluating. Admit you're wrong, Jerry. It's not an admittance thing. It's okay, maybe we in some sense, yes, it is. It would be, all right, we misevaluated what we had in, say, Marshawn Nealand, Dante Fowler Jr., who's coming a long way. The charts, I still haven't discussed that, and that's on me, but I've got a baby situation that we're kind of dealing with. So my schedule has been all out of whack. Sleep schedule has been crazy. But Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealand, Donovan Ezeraku coming of age slowly. Dante Fowler, finally, now that Jadeveon Clowney is here, is being put in better positions to succeed. He's not having to play so much on early downs. So it's kind of working a little bit. But going and getting somebody like Maxx Crosby it's much more palatable for Jerry's pride if he can look his fan base in the eye and say, okay, we're still a positive a net positive in the form of one extra first round pick than we otherwise would have had. But now, as a result, we still have Clark to go along with it. And not to mention, Maxx Crosby on the books, financially speaking, than Micah's 47 APY. But as we know, the 47 APY doesn't tell the full story. Much like Dak's 60 APY is not really 60. The Cowboys aren't paying Dak Prescott $60 million per year on their salary cap situation because of void years. We get that, right? So if it's palatable, if you're +1 in the first round pick department as a result of your net outcome, moving off of Micah to gain Kenny, to gain Max, to change or less, right? It's an easy sell. Jerry's ego doesn't suffer. As a matter of fact, he sat there and told us what we could do with Micah's money as a result of not paying one guy. We could have 6 guys instead. Now, I'm still a proponent of, hey, can we stop just giving away our best players? Can we do anything and everything by any means necessary to keep our best guys? Sure. And maybe let's do so before we enter into these deadlines make deals situations where rock in a hard place gets you. And you have no choice but to act out of pride or desperation. Why would the Cowboys do this? Well, because as of today, if anybody has a plug, by the way, tell these people to holler at me. Lion's mane, magnesium, L-theanine, and ashwagandha. Trip. First and only free shout out right there. But Clutch is in the house. Welcome in, man. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. That's hilarious, Swain. We're going to talk about Diggs here in just a second. You don't get better by subtraction. In some cases, yes. But not always. That's not always true. Addition by subtraction is a real thing. If you're, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to say anything that's going to be an indictment on me and like getting people to think that I'm insinuating that anybody is less of who they are. Because the reality is, I don't know what the relationship behind the scenes are between Diggs and coaching staff, Diggs and front office, Diggs and fellow teammates. I don't know for sure. We can make assumptions. We can speculate, which let's also be clear that Maxx Crosby, as of this point, is still speculation. But like I said yesterday, it's not crazy because of everything that we're detailing here. All right. So why would the Cowboys do it? Well, because they're currently the number 1 offense in football. But they're also one of the worst defense in football too. You do it because Matt Eberflus, to his core, is a bend but don't break. Keep the hat on, keep the lid on the defense, zone coverage based guy. That's who he wants to be. Now, we're going to see fluctuation. We've seen adaptation. Now, whether Shoddy made that call, whether Flus made that call, does not matter. The call was made, the adjustments happened, and the results are undeniable. The Cowboys played 50% zone coverage, 50% man, approximately. I think it was 47 was the final number, and about the same percentage of blitz packages. Those two, in some regards, are synonymous. Why? Because when you play man coverage, there's less zones to worry about because there's more zones than there are receivers. So when you man up, in theory, if you can hold up in man, you're also by nature allocating less to the zone coverage box, and you can therefore send more pressure, right? So man coverage in many cases also equals blitzing or sending anything above and beyond four-man pressures. Those two in some instances are synonymous, right? And that worked. Now, we also got to study and be honest about who Jaden Daniels is. Whenever he sees man versus zone, his splits come into the equation here, okay? You're better suited if you have the personnel to play man coverage against him. Why? Because in theory, you're forcing tighter windows. You're having to be more surgical, more precise in football. It's, in theory, more difficult if you have guys that can man up. Okay? But where you really get dangerous and why the Cowboys were one of the best defenses in football whenever Micah Parsons was on the field for 3 straight years is because you can play zone coverage and really keep it in. You essentially have 2 deep safeties or 3, and you can really prevent teams from taking deep shots when you have guys like Micah Parsons who you don't have to send extra pressure to win. You can get home with 4. Even despite Micah getting double teamed at the highest rate in the league, he's still the most successful pressure player. Okay, but Maxx Crosby is in a similar tier. He's a tier below the guy, the Micahs and the, say, Myles Garretts of the world in the pass rush department. But Max is also a tier up, and there's data to verify this. And we can talk about that if y'all want to, if you don't believe me. But just trust me that the work is being done. And I'm watching the tape, and you can see it. It's posted. It's actually in the video that I posted last night before Trey Wingo and people like Adam Schefter go and say and the big guys, right? Little man Land says something last night, but the big boys, the big dogs, started barking this morning, and so now it's real, right? But go watch the tackles for loss, the TFLs in the run game, the run stops. Okay, NFL Pro has all these metrics for you, and you can see them. You can see how disruptive that Maxx Crosby is in the running game. It's just something about his game. He's not that much bigger, right? 6'5", 248, I think is what he goes. Micah's right around the same weight. But there's just something to his game, a little bit longer frame, plays with a little bit better leverage potentially. He's able to get hands on tackles and tight ends, and I believe there's something. I don't know exactly what it is. I got to study it deeper, but there's something to his frame allows him to make the first punch, and he has to do less lateral moving. Right, he doesn't have to take himself out of gaps to win. Is kind of what I'm getting at, right? Because of the lever, he can strike first and win with pop, while also being he's still an elite mover, much like Micah. But Micah has he doesn't have the same length that Max plays with. And I think that's what makes Max better in the run game. But the point, regardless of why, the proof is in the pudding. And so Jerry would easily be able to say, well, we're better on early downs. We're better in the middle because we got Kenny Clark. We have an extra first-round pick, and we have a very comparable pass rusher, all in the same equation. One clean swoop. Now, of course, the Raiders would have to comply because Maxx Crosby is under contractual control until 2029. So let's talk about that. What's in it for the Raiders? Why on earth, Lando, would they move off a player like this? Well, ask yourself why the Cowboys will move off of Micah Parsons. Sometimes you just have to have honest conversations with yourself. Maybe there's a fracture in the relationship behind the scenes. Not the case with Max. I'm just saying there's lots of different plausible reasons for why a particular player would be moved. Why, sometimes things happen, okay? But then also in the Raiders case, they're not exactly who they thought they might be with Geno Smith. As of right now, they're a 2-win football team. Currently, I think they hold the 7th overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. But by the time it's all said and done, we're all pretty confident, or I'm pretty confident at least, I'll just speak for myself here, saying that the Raiders are going to be selecting inside the top 5. Maybe even higher when the dust ultimately settles. When you can't even so much, like Patrick Mahomes has taken a nap halfway through the third quarter because their divisional opponent is so incompetent, you got problems. You got buy-in issues, you have preparation issues, you have a talent deficiency clearly. And that team is just a long way off, right? And so the point is that Maxx Crosby today is 28 years old. He's 3 years older than Micah was. And by the time his contract ends, when he would, in theory, otherwise be a tradable asset, he's much less valuable 4 years down the road in 2029 than he is today. Right? A 28-year-old player is still at the peak of his powers. But he's best served for a team, a franchise, a roster who thinks, and the Cowboys do, by the way, they have the offense. If one of your two sides of the ball, there's 3 phases of football, but if one of your two is literally so far and above, or so clearly elite, you're a win now team. And so all they have to do is, it's not, I say all they have to do, there's a lot that goes into it, but can I merely just get my worst defense in football to just climb to middle of the road? Because history tells us in a vacuum, and this is minus Kenny Clark, keep in mind. All right. So with Micah Parsons, the Cowboys are one of the best EPA per play defenses in football up here. Pressures, sacks, takeaways, points per game. With Micah Parsons right here. Without, we're seeing it. We've seen what happens. So if one person has already proven that they can elevate, and I don't even need them to elevate, I don't need Max to elevate me to where Micah elevated me. All I need is right here, somewhere in this range. But I can also play the run better now because I've got Kenny Clark too. And I don't have to stop there if I don't want. We can get real crazy, real crafty. We can get real Howie Roseman if we want to. But we're just talking about one today. Because the report, I guess I should probably mention this, the big dogs that we've referenced a couple times so far in this stream. Big man, not little man land, big man. Adam Schefter is the first one today. Let's see, Adam Schefter, Crosby, if that pulls it up. What you got for me, big man? Just so you know, Trey Wingo, as you can see, 955,000 followers on Twitter. He ain't little man land. We'll say that. But he's connected. He's plugged in. He's got sources, as does obviously Adam Schefter. Let's go latest and see if I can filter it that way, just to be honest, or just to do quality sports media, sports journalism, and give credit where it's due here. You guys get the point. Did I freeze? Hold up. We'll get that corrected. I told y'all I'm under a metal building. Give me 30 seconds, sir. Okay, hopefully that solved whatever issue that we just ran into, and I appreciate you guys letting me know. Colby, I didn't know you were out there in the chat, but I got your message too, brother, and I appreciate you. My guy, Colby Craver. Hope you're doing well, man. I ain't seen you in a minute. F them picks. All right, Jim Johnson says we're back now. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you, man. Hey, listen, so Swain, I need it. I need it like the Cowboys need Max, man. Look, I got the adapter right here. And I have the hardwire. I've just got to figure out now because my unit, I have a separate Wi-Fi unit to the house. And that unit doesn't have, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, an entry point for a hardwire. So I've got to figure out a way to reconvene and adjust my situation. But I did. So the next point, talking point, when would a deal like this happen? So obviously the trade deadline is November 4th. Okay. That's a key deadline, key thing to consider here. It best suits the Raiders. Okay. This is what I tried to get at last night, to wait as long as possible so that they can get, they want some sort of finality, right? Whichever acquiring team, obviously any team that's acquiring a guy like Maxx Crosby right now with his cap impact and the type of player that he is, the assets that you would have to give up to acquire him, it's obviously a team that thinks that they're going for it, which the Cowboys would be in this scenario, right? This hypothetical, this speculative scenario, right? So they give up, let's just say first round pick. Let's say they give up the Packers have a better record right now. Most people would suggest that they have a better likelihood of ending up later in the draft, right? They're going to go further into the playoffs this year, the way that they're currently constructed. Cowboys get Max. They're neck and neck, brother. Trust me, because we've already seen a tie outcome without a player like him. We'll leave it there, okay? But for the Raiders, from their perspective, let's wait 3 more weeks until that, or I guess it's 2 weeks now, 2 weeks and change, for that November 4th deadline to get here. That way we know exactly, have a much better idea, as close as possible, with still half the season to play, of, okay, we've got our pick, but where's your pick going to end up? We want to take the best one. If the Raiders think the Cowboys are going to not be quite as good with Maxx Crosby as, say, somebody like the Eagles, then they might take, it might require a little bit less if they think the Cowboys pick is going to be a little bit worse, or worse from the Cowboys perspective. If that's going to net them a higher draft standing. So they're weighing capital in this process. And in fairness, we've only seen it, the Cowboys really make adjustments with the way that they dictate, or the way that they go about mixing up their coverages, dialing up their pressures, simulating pressures. They handled Washington, but Dak is Washington's daddy. So that, to me, it's like, this offense we know is going to be, you can almost book them week in, week out for 30 points. With 40 points likely, considering it's happened, 3 times now out of a 7-game sample? But not every quarterback will struggle as often, or his splits won't be as significant, from how successful are you versus zone and how successful are you versus man, the way that Jaden Daniels was. So that's going to encourage you in general to play more man coverage, just because of the numbers, the data, right? The analytics. That's what it tells us. That's how you beat them. You dial them up and you man up. And boom, you get what you get. But also too, right, we can't forget, we have to be honest. Imagine the Cowboys playing, how confident would we be if we knew that they were going to play not just without CeeDee Lamb, but also without George Pickens. Because objectively speaking, that's what they're, in a vacuum, obviously the Cowboys tandem is different tier, but that's still their two top guys who have the best rapport and connection with Jaden Daniels. The offense structured around Deebo Samuel, touching the football, dictating leverage, right? And he's the motion man, the move player, similar to what CD and Kevontae Turpin are, right? He's so important to that system. You're going to feel less confident if you're Matt Eberflus than you otherwise would when you got, just putting it in Cowboys terms, when you're covering Jalen Tolbert, Ryan Flournoy, and Jalen Brooks versus CD, Pickens, Turpin, Mingo. You feel me? So that's a factor. But from Jerry's perspective, right? Okay. We know that it's palatable for in his pride because he can sell that this is a much better package, right? Kenny, Max, and an extra one versus Micah, you're taking the aforementioned, the former in a landslide, I would say, almost, right? Is that crazy, guys? Somebody tell me. Max, Kenny in a 1. You take that 10 times out of 10 over Micah. Do you not? That's not even a poll. I know I'm not crazy for that. I trust my eyes. Like, I know Max is a popular name. He's a household name, but I don't know if Cowboys fans realize that teams prepare for him the same way that they prepared for Micah Parsons. Okay. Thank you. So the point being for the Raiders, why would they do this? Because the reality is that Max's peak value at age 28 relative to where they would be with him whenever his contract runs out, he's well past the 30 mark. At that point, he's more valuable now. But also, too, it's a two-headed, it's two sides of the coin for the Raiders for why it makes sense. They're not going to compete for a Super Bowl anytime soon. They're too far away. And honest, let's be real, by the time that they're even sniffing the playoffs, which is at least 2 years away, that puts Max in a situation to where he's already thinking about another contract restructure or a contract extension again. They're trying to get that money. Again, you're gonna see the life of this current contract through and then him again when he's 32, top of the market money. When you're getting boat raced by your own division, when that's not supposed to happen. We even see teams like the Panthers go and shut somebody out and beat them 30-0. But the Falcons have at least shown the testicular fortitude to bounce back and go smack somebody else like the Bills around. Sometimes things happen. But when you are that inside and outside of your division, like the Raiders have been this year, you got big problems, man. When Ashton Genty threw, I think it was one of the, no doubt, multi-generational talent at running back. If this doesn't prove our theory that we talk about here all the time, that running back is the most dependent variable and the most easily replaced position on offense, I don't know what else does. I can't help you. Ashton Genty, through 4 weeks, had more yards after contact than he did before. Can you even compute that? Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how bad you got to be up front and offensively, coordinator included, quarterback included, skill personnel included? That's insane. Great point, Ian. Great point. So the point is, Ian says we got to figure out this defensive scheme with Eberflus, though. No, absolutely. So that's what I was trying to. I realized I went a little bit off the rails a second ago and kind of went on a tangent. It makes a little bit of sense for the Cowboys to wait this thing out another week or two as well. Go see how you fare against Denver. And then who's after that? Arizona? I live in this tunnel, man. I'm like, okay, whoever we just played, that's the only team that I know that's on the schedule that I can think about. I'm like, all right, I see the game, and now I'm watching it over and over and over and over and over again on all 22. And I'm just like this. I'm in this little box, figuratively and literally here underneath my metal roof in my backyard. Cowboys schedule. Hold up. Yeah, Broncos, Cardinals next. Okay. And then how about this? Look at this. Hey, this. Clip this. Wait, never mind. That don't work because it's after the deadline. Dang, that was perfect. If the Cowboys played the Raiders 1 week ahead or one game on their schedule ahead, so like if you just swap the Cardinals and the Raiders on the schedule, man, I thought I had something right there. I was about to say Cowboys travel to Vegas and then just take Maxx Crosby on the plane back home to Dallas with them after they smack that, after they BTA them. Be hilarious. I kind of had a similar thought with Christian Okoye, the D tackle for the Ravens, who is a fascinating story. I've got some work done on him. If you guys just Google my name and type in Christian Okoye or the Nigerian Nightmare Part 2, the modern nightmare, I guess, because he wasn't the first. But in the preseason, the Ravens played the Cowboys. Obviously, they came to AT&T, and I had a similar thought, but that's just kind of where that came from. So, yeah, hey Max, we got you a one-way ticket, man. Hop on the plane, go ahead. But no, just for me, for Adam Schefter to be, he was rather cryptid with. I think it was on the Pat McAfee show when he was, detailing the link that I was trying to find earlier for y'all. He was kind of cryptic with it a little bit. He was like, I'm not saying that the Cowboys would be big suitors, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they were either. Like he rattled off about 4 sentences of him sort of trying to be very careful about what he said. He was being very selective, and you could see him kind of like plotting his way through that statement where he's like, there's some real momentum here. Listen, and I am going to have a field day because I'm human. I shouldn't be this way, but I'm petty in some instances when people that don't know me, rightfully so, they question my stance, my takes, my objectivity, honestly, fairly, right? If you never heard of who I am, you see me in a room that's got a Cowboys logo and I'm talking about the Cowboys, you're going to automatically assume I'm biased. And maybe subconsciously that's the case. But you guys go scroll through my timeline, you know that's not true. You guys are here right now because that's not true. 85,000 strong in my community because that's not true. The sports below the surface objective truth. I'm very passionate about that. And when people question that publicly, that directly affects, that's my livelihood. That's my business that I've created by being honest and objective for you guys. Without you, there is no me. And that hurts too. But when people question my integrity, sports psychology, I take significant exception. That pisses me off a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to take a victory lap when for the 3rd time this year, I predict a trade because it absolutely has to happen. There's no other option. Change must come. Jane Slater made a mockery because I'm little man. But big man doesn't get checked nearly as often as little man does until little man's right. And so I can't get mad at Jerry for being prideful with his business because I'm the same way. We're all like that. We're human. It's part of it. And I bite my tongue way more often than I would like to. But stuff like this, when I'm telling you weeks in advance, hey, get ready, and people are sitting there just slapping my name around like I'm just some clown show. I get a little annoyed about that. But that's okay. That's okay. You guys got me and I got you. That's all I need. Y'all want to talk about Diggs? I'll put a few feelers out there to some of the people who do have a credential, are inside that building. Because there's a few different, you could paint the picture of a few different things that are going on with that situation. I don't know what the truth is. And as of, man, I don't know. What do we got? Like, yeah, exactly. It's weird, right? And thank you, Swain. I know you are, man. Appreciate you. Why is the situation so anonymous? Yeah, so it's weird. There's conflicting reports. I'll be honest. I don't think a concussion ever happened. We're the first one to say that. I don't think that Trevon Diggs has been a good player this year. But hear me out. Kyer Elam wasn't a good player this year either. Until they started playing a little bit more man coverage. All of a sudden, he's a little bit more sticky. All of a sudden, somebody by the name of Traquez Bridges, who came around the exact same time that Reddy Stewart did, when Zion Childress got let go. When that wasn't let go yet, they actually waived him, put him back on the practice squad, added those two guys, and then Reddy was signed to the Texans later on, after the fact. But they were trying to figure out their cornerback situation, right? All of a sudden, Deron Bland is looking. Y'all watched. I'll have a video for you. I'll show you. Deron Bland was everywhere. He was Alcatraz. Granted, against wide receivers 3, 4, 5, and 6, and not 1, 2, 3, and 4, but still, nobody cares, man. When the Cowboys go out and smack the Jets around without 4/5 of their offensive line, if Dak would have lost that game, nobody would have gave Dak any credit for that. Nobody would have given him a pass. So I don't give the Commanders a pass. You got to go play football and win football games with reserves. I'm sorry. You just got to. Part of the business. Which is also, God, there's so much I want to say. I apologize if I'm bouncing around a bit. Did you guys catch the Brian Broaddus and Jeff Kavanaugh video that I posted on my timeline earlier today? Give me a couple of these in the chat if you did, if you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I'll elaborate and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Y'all want a beat? Let me get you a beat. This beat's kind of groovy. I like it. Jeff Kavanaugh, Brian Broaddus. Debate on Jeff Kavanaugh's YouTube show this morning. I think it's Jeff Kavanaugh on YouTube. I can't remember what it is. But that J. Lou thing was a bit of an issue. But did y'all notice what they did this week, right? I see you, Colby, with the poke. They put DaRon Bland back inside, man, and he just went nuts. All these guys, like DaRon Bland is a man cover guy. Trevon Diggs is a man cover guy. Apparently, Kyrie Elam is a man cover guy. Now, we still got to see it. We got to see it against Denver. We got to see it against Arizona. Maybe 2 more times of competence where you're not the worst defense in football on any given Sunday. Jerry Jones might say, Matt Eberflus, let me see a little something before I empty my pockets. Before I let go of one of those first-round draft picks that I'm desperately going to need unless I go and fill it with a guy of the caliber of Maxx Crosby. Show me something. Cut this off. So, okay. The point of Kavanaugh brought us, they had a discussion centered around CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Broadus, to be clear, was very open about him doing a bit on radio for entertainment purposes only. Not that this is something Broadus would do. Could we trade CeeDee Lamb? Anybody that thinks that, by the way, this is how I feel about it.
Yeah, get him the hell out of here, will you, please? Get him out of here. Throw him out.
Ain't trading CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, but it was a Broadus painted the picture. He got some pushback from Jeff. It was fantastic entertainment because it was a high-level discussion on both fronts. I didn't agree with Broadus's angle, and I have mountains of evidence and data and film. Obviously, Broadus could do the same thing. He knows. He's not stupid. One of the brightest football minds there is, but that could disprove or strongly suggest that not only is CeeDee the better player, and this is the problem. Like having these discussions, man, it's like you elevate one, and it automatically means that people think you're just kicking another one to the curb and stomping all over them. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. But each guy clearly has their own unique skill set, and it's now verified. And we talked about it, and once again, we predicted it when I showed you guys the heat maps back in April. I guess it was May, whenever the trade happened. I don't remember the date. Had a whole article about it, about 3 of them, actually. But the triple threat, Dak, CeeDee, and Pickens. Not only did the 2 receivers complement each other well, George Pickens gave Dak Prescott an element of his game that he is desperately, really, really elite at, tops in the league, right? Top 2 in attempts, in yards, on go routes. George Pickens, in the same time frame, top 2 in catches and yards on go routes. But the heat maps show you where the areas of the field, clearly George Pickens can do some of the CeeDee Lamb things as the move player, operate over the middle of the field and the shallow areas of the field and things like that. Understanding when to sit down and when not to. When you line them up in the slot, you're oftentimes exposed to more responsibility and more flexibility within your route tree, right? You're not always just running the route that's designed or that's called in the huddle or that Dak motions to you or signals to you for based on what he's seeing at the line of scrimmage, right? If in the modern world of defense, the hybridized defenses where firing the nickel is a real thing, where simulated pressures is a real thing, and oftentimes there's blitzes coming from areas of the field, particularly the nickel corner spot where you may have not seen that coming or planned for it or talked about it in the huddle, right? You got to adapt and react on the fly. You got to sit down and and present yourself to Dak whenever he sees and feels that pressure. And he's got to be able to hit you. He's got to have an outlet. So there's a lot of different things. It's a nuanced discussion there. But clearly George Pickens can handle that load, right? None of us here are surprised, but it's now verifiable. We have data. We can see it. We've all seen it. We can look at the analytics, and then we can watch the film. And we know. We got it right here in front of us. He can do these things. But when defenses can't say, okay, we're going to bracket and eliminate one guy, you don't have anybody else that can win one-on-one. So we don't even technically have to we don't have to add additional numbers to the box we don't have to allocate extra resources to other areas in coverage beyond just your true number one guy. When teams have to allocate safeties to both sides of the field, wherever George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are, guess what happens? The box lightens. And it's a little bit easier to run the football because it's a numbers game at that point, right? It's chess. It's finding and exploiting the opposing team's weakness. When you have strength and now numbers at the receiver position, you are much more difficult to prepare for. You want Javonte Williams to rush for 5.5 yards a carry all over the place? Or do you want to take your chances and man coverage with either George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb? Pick your poison. The Cowboys have answers. For whatever you decide to do, they can throw you out of it or they can run you out of it. If you want to load the box, they'll throw it right over your head and Dak will have a field day. If you want to allocate vision-based, drop 7, 2 high, 3 high, zone coverage, shell coverage, which is what good defenses do to Dak and the Cowboys in the postseason. And that's why the Cowboys don't have success. That's why the offense looks crazy, because you go up against competent and well-coached defenses and you're only one-dimensional. You got problems. Ask Baker Mayfield. Ask the Buccaneers last night. When you can't run the football, good luck to you, buddy. Do you realize that the Lions were also missing their top 3 cover men in that game last night? And yeah, I know Mike Evans was, less than 100%, right? Mecca Ibuka was a game time decision, right? Mike Evans left the game with a apparent, what we know now was a collarbone fracture and probably a concussion. But that offense didn't skip a beat when they were up to the task up front and could control the line of scrimmage around the football. It didn't matter who Baker Mayfield was throwing to at that point. But when you become one-dimensional, you are nothing against NFL or against playoff caliber opponents on defense. Even if that's the JV squad in the secondary, if they're well coached, they're going to make it impossible for you, especially if somebody like Aiden Hutchinson or, how about this, Maxx Crosby is on your team. You now have answers because you can allocate less resources in coverage, more resources in coverage and still get home with only a 4-man pressure. Jadeveon Clowney, Oso Odigizua, Kenny Clark, Maxx Crosby, James Houston. That is a Super Bowl contending defensive front. Because Clowney in particular, and Kenny Clark in particular, albeit Kenny Clark a little bit undersized, they bring an element of run stop to this roster that was not here last year or the year before, or against the Packers in the playoffs, or against the Niners in the playoffs on 2 different occasions. If you choose to be physical, it's one of my calling cards. It's one of my slogans on this channel. Physicality is a choice, man. When the Cowboys don't overlook their opponents like they did in Carolina, when they take pride in their business at home against a divisional opponent, like the Commanders, they play discipline, but they play with great pad level and great energy. You stay in your run fits. You man up a little bit. Give your corners confidence because they're like, all right, I trust you. You trust me? Bet. I'll bet on me too. That's what Trey Diggs and that's what Deron Bland are saying. That's what they're telling the media, by the way. They're saying it. Hey, man, I want to play man coverage a little bit more. Can we do that? More than 7% of the time? Eberflus and or maybe it was Shoddy that, pulled the strings on that one. Hey, how about 50% of the time? Does that sound good, Deron? Yes, sir, it does. I'll take a pick 6 and I'll go about my merry way. do have a TikTok. That's actually that's kind of where I came of age, man. That was the first. I started on YouTube. I started the sports media journey on YouTube. Didn't really have a feel for it. Like anything else in life, man, it takes hours and hours and thousands of hours of time. And ultimately, I ended up here. But yes, TikTok gave me a voice. So at the Lando Show on all socials, you can find me there. And that's where, I mean, I'm active on there every day. Instagram is now my fastest growing platform, which is weird. I don't know what happens. I know that there's a new thing with TikTok in China and the US and stuff like that. I try not to depend on it, but I definitely use it as a resource for growth. And it's worked pretty well. So about 30, I think 34K or something like that over there. That's credit to those people, man, that appreciated the work that I put in and bought into what we do here. And that is thanks in large part, that growth is the reason why I'm still here today, because that gave me confidence that I could actually do it. So, yes, sir. Colby Craver, day one. Let's go, bro. Hey, man, we're still tip of the iceberg with this thing. My vision is I know where I'm going, and I know what I want to do with it. But right now, 50% of my effort is raising 3 little babies. So I'm just running my race, man, and enjoying every second of it as best as I possibly can. Sleep is definitely tertiary these days because, 2 small businesses, 2 soon to be 3 small children. Yeah, man, fast lane, but it's fun. That's for sure. What else? Do we clear up the Maxx Crosby thing? That's obviously that's why you guys came here today. I want to make sure that I answered every question that was unanswered before we get out. Any final parting Maxx Crosby questions, thoughts, or concerns? Does everybody understand the salary cap and what I mean by voided years? Voided years are a loophole for ownership and general management to basically give themselves an additional 3-year window beyond the time that the contract technically calls for that player to be in-house. It's like, for instance, Maxx Crosby's contract with the Raiders expires in 2029. They would have, in theory, or the Cowboys, in theory, for George Pickens, for whoever, they could restructure the Maxx Crosby's contract, by the way, if they wanted to. So that's another thought that we didn't even get into. But the money can always work. That's what I want y'all to understand more so than anything. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff. That's for me to worry about, and I'll creatively convey that whenever the time comes. But don't let Jerry Jones convince you that if you get Maxx Crosby, you can't also have George Pickens, because that could not be further from the truth. Wrong. That is snake oil. If that's the case, then you explain to me how Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. I think he's making, 15 a year? You got 230 a year guys. You got a quarterback that's making 50. You got, countless others. Lane Johnson. You got Jalen Carter, who's getting ready to command. He'll be the highest paid interior defensive tackle soon. I mean, they have 10 or 12 contracts where guys are making double-digit millions. That's like 5 more than the next highest team in the league. Maybe they have 15 by now. I don't even know. I haven't checked it in a while. But there's no guarantees that the Raiders move him. They don't have to. It's not up to the Cowboys to get this done. They got to have 2 to tango. But the difference between somebody I guess I should also mention this too. So let's just say Maxx Crosby versus Trey Hendrickson, right? Just so we understand. For me, it makes more sense for the Cowboys to consider a deal for somebody like Max, who is currently under contract. Like they have his numbers. It's right here. It's on paper for them. They can see, okay, this is how much this guy makes. Here's how it's going to affect our business decisions. They can adjust that because of voided years, right? But it's finite. It's right here. Okay, here's his APY. Here's his bonuses. Here's his incentives. Here's his the life of his contract. Here's how many more years we got. Okay, we can move this money here. We can restructure this here. We can give this to George Pickens. Like they can start playing the game. If you trade for Trey Hendrickson, you got to give up draft capital, and then you got to negotiate, give up draft capital to acquire him, and then you got to negotiate and give up financial capital to keep him because he's only got one. He's on an expiring contract. His deal ends. So if you go get Trey Hendrickson this year, now granted he might be a lot cheaper because of that situation. That might make him cheaper. Like you might be only giving up, say, I don't know, a 3rd round pick or something. I don't know what it would be. But you're paying draft capital to acquire the player, and then you got to pay and deal with the negotiation to renegotiate to keep him beyond. And that's a problem for most teams. It's like it's an annoyance, right? But for the Cowboys in particular, who are focused on getting other guys done, their own. We know how much they value and covet their own. Oftentimes, way more than they should. But they like their guys, So it just, to me, it seems more likely that they would dance with a team like the Raiders for Maxx Crosby than they would dance with a team like the Bengals for Trey Hendrickson, because it's still one extra step that they have to take that's annoying, and that can be really difficult to come to terms with. Max's is already done. Here it is. We can all go see it right now. All you got to do is type in Spotrac, Maxx Crosby, his base salary. You can see all those numbers. $32.5 million in 2025, $30 million in 2026, $29 million in 2027, $26 in 2028, and then $27 million again in 2029. But if the Raiders, I should also say this too, if they traded him, depending on the designation, but at most, all right, let's just say it's a pre-June 1 trade, they would eat $10 million this year and only $5 million of dead money next year. So relative to their financial situation, it's next to nothing. They can absolutely move off of Maxx Crosby today if they wanted to and be just fine. It would not cap strap them. For instance, they wouldn't be eating $30 million to not have him. Okay. This year and next year, they could get it if they wanted it to, depending on the designation, pre or post June 1, they could have it be approximately $5 million of dead money, and that's it. That's basically who's a $5 million player this year for the Cowboys, right? That's not doing anything. Javonte Williams, by the way, was $3 million. So there's that. But I don't know. You just insert average veteran, like replacement level veteran salary here, and that's what we're talking about. Like say an Eric Kendricks or somebody like that. He actually played on the veterans minimum last year, which wasn't $5 million, but you get the point. Okay, and then 2027, 28, and 29, zero dead money, regardless of when they do it. So they're not mortgaging their future to not have him, and just basically it would be some people have suggested that it would be only a play for adding draft capital now. It's not the case. It would clear their books to the tune of $30 million per year. Their cap savings, if they moved off of him this year, or let's just say next year, they'd save $30 million in 2026, $29 million in 2027, $27 million in 2028, and $28 million in 2029. That's good business if you're adding first-round picks, first round plus, we'll say, and also getting off of $30 million. For a team that's not ready to win. If they're honest with themselves, that sounds like something that I would do if I were a general manager, especially for a 28-year-old player. Especially for one that maybe you might think, hey, we owe this guy something. We owe it to him. Let him go get a ring somewhere. Doesn't even have to be Dallas. I'm just saying in general, it makes sense for them to move off of the to move Maxx Crosby away from the Raiders for a variety of reasons. Draft capital added, money spent, all because of where we are today. But then also, let's do right by the player. Let's get him out of here, man. Let him go win somewhere for a change. How about that? You know? So I've said my piece, man. I hope that you guys have enjoyed your time here today. Don't forget, if you didn't do so when you first came in here, hit the like button for me just so that we can continue to grow this platform and continue having these discussions, man. The sports below the surface truth for the true fan. And we'll continue tracking the situation. But for Trey Wingo, for Adam Schefter, and for Little Man Land to be talking about things like this, why it makes sense, there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense, not just for the Cowboys, but for both parties. One team going one way, another team hopefully going the other. Got a lot of guys on 4-year max pay windows right now for the Cowboys, right? Including the coach. Oso Digizua, 4-year extension. CeeDee Lamb, 4-year extension. Dak Prescott, 4-year extension. You'd like to think that George Pickens would be on if and when they sign George Pickens, it's going to be the same timeline. And guess who lines up with that 4-year extension? With everybody else on the Cowboys. Going all in. Maxx Crosby. All their money, their window of paying all these guys, right? That's lining up, man. And guess what happens right after that? Just in case you didn't know. You're worried about the money and deferring dead money into void years to make the money work now, to keep Maxx Crosby, CeeDee, George Pickens, Dak, Kenny, Osa, Deron Bland, Tyler Smith. I'm missing a few. You guys get it, okay? You're not mortgaging your future in 2029 either. You wouldn't have to tank or rebuild either. You know why? Because it's what the Eagles know. That's the video that we did the other day, a month and a half ago or so, whatever it was. What the Eagles know and what they're acting on differently than anybody else. It's time for Jerry Jones. Y'all clip this and send it to tag everybody that you know with a voice. Tag them right now.
Guys,
Right now. I need your help.
Listen. Okay, what?
When that new TV money starts to hit, just call it 2030, which is right around the time frame that all these Maxx Crosby like extensions that the Cowboys currently have on their books would all come to an end. But then all that dead money that's deferred into the future beyond 2029, 2030, to make the books work, to make the money fit into their salary cap situation, that 30% salary cap balloon year over year, when it's never happened, it's never jumped over 15% to date, when it all of a sudden jumps double the amount that it ever has before because of that new TV money, Jerry Jones could always afford it. But now more than ever, he absolutely can. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Clip that. And tag all the big dogs. Because Little Man Land can't do it by himself. All right? I love you guys. Remember that prayer changes things, and the war is already won.